Stargate project, I know they were looking at basically trying to find concrete evidence and evaluating the science behind clairvoyance and remote viewing and out-of-body experiences and everything. And that just isn't able to be done yet is what they figured out, right?
Yeah, that's what I believe so. We also are going to be talking about Project Artichoke and Bluebird and how that came out in the medias later with the men who stare at goats and things like that. But Project Artichoke mostly dealt with mind control experimentation and using psychological operations and how the military could, I guess, weaponize our minds in a way.
Yep, that's exactly what the Men Who Stare at Goats was about, because they were looking at how they could use remote viewing to find where somebody is based on what little information they have on the surrounding area.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really cool, and plus it was a good role for
Very
George Clooney.
good. It's a very good movie. That was my favorite part of this whole research project, was probably watching that movie. I love George Clooney.
Oh yeah, we all do. And Jeff Bridges, of course, which is the man who they were hunting in the movie. And there was a reporter, I remember, and the reporter went to meet with the PsyOps guy, right? And the PsyOps guy was George Clooney. And I remember that I don't know where the thing came from the staring at the goats and stopping their hearts. Do we know the source?
That was probably just for the aesthetic.
You think that was just for the creativity taste?
Yeah, probably. So it says that it took place over 2 decades, and it actually says that they spent somewhere around $20 million.
Whew. That's a pretty chunk of change. And that's something that I don't think that they would just put money into something they didn't stand behind or believe.
Strong about that.
That I mean, that could also have to do with the position of the chemicals they were messing with in the place and time, because they discovered LSD in was it the 50s or the 60s, right? I'm sure upon the first observance and the first awareness of its existence, we thought highly of it, I'm sure, or we thought that there was so much more into it that we didn't know about. And so I'm sure that they were able to put a lot of that money just into the education on it, and I'm sure they were studying the chemicals.
Do you think Project Stargate was the last time that the CIA is ever gonna look into using
It's like psychedelics and hallucinogenics and stuff?
Yeah.
I don't, and I really find it kind of ironic that the Project Stargate ended and they said like 95, right?
Yeah, it was probably the most recent on record.
Correct. And not only that, if you notice, 4 years later, there was a book and a movie that came out that was pretty significant called Fight Club. Do you remember that movie?
Yes, I know we're not supposed to talk about Fight Club.
Correct. Well, if you've watched it, it's one of my favorite movies.
I haven't seen it in a while. I might have to watch it.
It keeps coming back to the idea of capitalism and how capitalism has ultimately taken over our brains and programmed us to go along with the program. And Tyler Durden, which is a character in the movie, is freeing this guy from the hold of that kind of mental state. And he finds the freedom through Fight Club. So I'm wondering if there was some sort of information that was released that I don't know about, or that David Fincher and Chuck Palahniuk found to be able to make that movie, or write that book, I should say, because it was the book came out first and then the movie, but they came out in the same year.
Right.
So I think it's fascinating that they jumped to releasing 2 mediums for this story, just 4 years after Project Stargate was concluded. I think that there is some sort of connection there. There has to be, because Project Stargate's whole thing was talking about how people can be programmed, and how we could use our mind to be able to provide intelligence to the government and to the people who operate our administrations and our institutions, which is why advertising is so high right now.
Mm-hmm.
Is because we keep buying and consuming and getting into it. And then, of course, these advertisements are doing nothing but training us.
Right.
So,
there wouldn't be advertisements if there wasn't business for that either. You know what I mean? Like,
Exactly. And we have been trained and highly susceptible to it because of all this media we watch and how much we see YouTube videos and how much advertising we see on billboards. And it's in movies, it's in video games, it's in every sort of form of media you could think of. And I really think that some of the research that went into Grill Flame, Stargate, MK Ultra is being used now to harvest us and like basically use us for the money, maybe to make the money back from what they put into MK Ultra.
Right.
So that's
Oh, psychokinesis.
moving things with your mind.
Yeah. What the heck?
So he studied telekinesis too.
Remote viewing. They were using several apparently gifted subjects, the most notable of whom were Pat Price and Ingo Swann. SRI scientists conducted several CIA-sponsored remote viewing tests. I don't know who those people are, but they're gifted subjects, apparently. As a result of these original tests, emphasis over the last decade has centered on remote viewing rather than on other aspects of parapsychology, such as mental telepathy.
Can we get the
I see now. This is where it gets into grill flame. The U.S. Army ASCI. I don't know what that is.
ASCI? That is the American Society for Clinical Investigation.
Okay. Apparently, they canceled Project Girl Flame in 1978.
So the ASCI is responsible for why it ended.
It says that their purpose was to use remote viewing as a collect, and it took place in Fort Meade. Okay, so Gondola Wish is what it was originally.
So it's not just a another name for it. It's a offset or an offshoot.
So the ACSI canceled Gondola Wish and then started Project Girl Flame. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And I know
they just have like casual little graphics in here. It says, would information obtained by psychic means be accurate enough to suit the intel's community needs? Would the intel community accept information which had been obtained through psychic means?
it was one of those situations where they were psychedelics and hallucinogenics can change the mind in so many different ways that nothing is unpredictable, I think.
So they originally started it on the 4th of September in 1979, and their main goal was to locate a missing Navy aircraft, and then someone actually did it. So that's kind of the aircraft was located 15 miles of the actual crash site.
So
like that's where that person said it was.
So they were able to use remote viewing to find an actual plane 15 miles away from where they were stationed.
Yeah.
That's got to have some sort of concrete evidence to it. That's got to mean something.
So that's where that started. I found a list on Reddit. It's called Ongoing List of Interesting PDFs from CIA's Project Stargate FOIA Release.
Aha, that's a good one.
The Controlled Remote Viewing Manual. Yes.
So the SRI actually even released protocols. So what I'm looking at is a document that they created, and it talks about how they pool the target selection and how they orient the subjects, and they look at subject behavior, experimenter behavior, judging procedure. In a sense, the most critical part of the remote viewing procedure is to further any result less than perfect can be dismissed as a general grass is green, sky is blue transcript that fits every target. Only blind differential discrimination across a series of targets can put these interpretations to rest. So what they were testing was repetition. Like if we can have the similar results every single time with different subjects and different experiments, then it could be verified. However, they were not able to reach as such, which is probably part of the reason why it got discontinued. Is because it wasn't consistent. They couldn't find consistent evidence or consistent concrete information from it. The protocol for it was released in '78 by the CIA. And I know that part of the research that went into remote viewing also went into the hemispherical synchronization, or Hemi-Syncing is that term I've used before.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that Hemi-Syncing is whenever you train, it's a form of Zen meditation. And it's whenever you can train your brain into having both your left brain and your right brain be connected on the same frequency. And whenever it's on that same frequency, what it does is it has similar to a laser effect, and it dials in, and it actually can cause people to have that ability to go to remote viewing and put themselves in another spot and read the sensory perceptions of where they're able to project themselves.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, Hemi-Syncing is something that really interested me. And I remember reading it was something they said in the research that it requires somebody to have at least 15 years of Zen meditation experience to be able to Hemi-Sync properly to get yourself to the
Wow.
point of remote viewing. So it takes somebody who has had extensive research and experience in working with their brain to be able to do this anyway. So with the little amount of time that the CIA had with Stargate and MK Ultra, I don't think that they had enough time to be able to find that concrete evidence they were searching for.
That would make more sense as to why they would just say, well, we can't find enough data.
But they did acknowledge the fact that they knew it took somebody with that experience and it took that amount of time and training. So what I'm wondering is if along these lines they decided to officially and on the record discontinue the experiment, so it allows them to change the protocols off the record and be able to do things more and dig more into it so that they can get more of that concrete evidence and get stuff done or figure it out.
Yeah. And I mean, the first one happened in like what, the 50s? That's
Mhm.
when K Ultra happened.
Yes.
This one started in the late 70s. It's like, how long is it going to be until, and we didn't find out about it until the 2000s. So it's like, how long is it going to be until we figure out something else happened? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I bet something tells me the PsyOps core would have some answers with that, but once again, I don't think that they would tell us anything.
I don't think they'd come out all willy-nilly and say, yeah, that was us. We're going to do it again.
And
we
they're
have,
going to do it again. I
we have a
mean,
program going on right now. I've got to get up early in the morning for it.
yep. Yeah, I don't think they're just going to stop studying it or stop with the continuation of these studies, because this is essentially the CIA's way of creating that super soldier that they've wanted the whole time. And I think that this being the closest lead they have on it and using our minds for militarization, I don't think they're just going to discontinue. Something tells me they'll keep going.
They also like used hypnosis pretty heavily.
Mm-hmm.
So just literally trying to
Well, yeah, and
get.
hypnosis to this point they've broken down to a science, and it involves the hemispheres. Essentially, what it is it turns, because your left hemisphere of your brain is in charge of, I think, the logic side and the connections. But then whenever they bring you back to center and they knock it off with the pendulum effect, like for example with the clock thing, it wakes up the right hemisphere again.
Interesting.
I mean, that's whenever it could be broken down that simply. The military, of course, is going to put so much money into how they can further advance that.
Wow. I saw that. I saw his name pop up once or twice while doing some of this research. I was talking about him recently because I was like, oh, I don't need sleep. That guy claimed to only have gotten like 2 to 3 hours of sleep at night. He was kind of mean. Nikola Tesla was kind of mean.
Kind of mean?
Yeah. Didn't he say something like,
I was about to say, he has a lot of quotes.
I'm going to find this. He had a photographic memory. So he's one of those. Like me. I feel that. Like I memorize like the dumbest things, like things that I don't need to know, but I know them.
But you remember it because you saw it.
He was really like good on like gender equality. I'm now going down a rabbit hole on Nikola Tesla. He said something about the other inventor guy that he competed with a lot.
Part of me wants to say Alexander Graham Bell, but Edison?
I think it might have been against Edison. He just talked a lot of shit.
I mean, as all inventors do.
Oh my god. What was the other one? Artichoke.
Yes.
Let's talk artichoke. Okie dokie artichoke.
Those agency cryptonyms, man.
Makes me hungry.
Not me. I hate artichokes.
I love like some spinach artichoke dip.
Oh, I do like spinach artichoke dip. That stuff's amazing. Mr. Sheffield Edwards in November of 1952 had control of Project Artichoke from the Office of Security.
It says a June 1943 OSS memo refers to various experiments with the U.S. military volunteers using mescaline,
Mescaline. Yeah.
mescaline,
Yep.
cannabis indica, and THC. Why, hello?
They were just testing different mind alterants, I'm sure, to try to. I bet it's to create a control or to create a range of different effects that the mind could react to, so that they know they have plot points. Basically, I bet it's so that they could have plot points for different reactions to different chemicals.
It says tetrahydrocannabidiolacetate,
It's a form of THC.
right? That's why I was like, why does it say cannabis, indica, mescaline, and that?
Maybe it's a. Hold on.
Oh, it says this memo also mentions an unwitting test in 1943 on a notorious New York gangster by one of the OSS researchers.
It was hold on. It's not Dillinger. It was it Gotti? It was one of the big ones. I do remember hearing about this. No, was it Whitey Bulger?
Yeah, it just says notorious New York gangster. That's crazy.
I think it's Whitey Bulger.
You said Whitey Bulger?
Yeah, after learning of Whitey Bulger's LSD test with the CIA.
Wow. What does unwitting mean? Does that mean he just was like, I'll do it?
Pretty much.
Oh, no, it says without being aware. Oh, no.
So he was.
He did
Is it
not know.
because he was arrested at the point then? Probably.
Oh.
Because I know that he went to jail in the
Wow,
90s.
that's crazy because that's on the CIA website, so we know it for sure happened in Artichoke.
Yep. Yeah, and Whitey Bulger, if you don't know, was essentially he was a hitman for the mafia. Whitey
Mhm.
Bulger was one that they would send out to take people out.
Oh,
He
wow.
was the guy. He was the cleaner.
Wow.
Yeah. There's a whole movie about Whitey Bulger. I don't remember the name, but Johnny Depp played him, and it was a pretty good movie. Black something.
Black Window?
No, you're thinking Secret Window.
Secret Window.
Black Mass.
Black Mask?
Black Mass is a movie about Whitey Bulger.
Oh, Black Mass. Oh, that's not too old.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but they don't talk about his work with the CIA. They literally just talk about his work with the
Oh,
mafia.
okay.
And apparently, I remember reading that Whitey Bulger himself saw the movie and hated how Johnny Depp played him.
Imagine like playing a character so hard and then the person who is actually the person is like, you did
the,
such a
the
bad job.
inspiration. Yeah.
So Artichoke took place earlier. This is
Yes.
this is what happened right before MK Ultra.
Yes.
So
We jumped into the deep end without even getting into the shallow end.
look, MK Ultra is just such a big because they spent a lot more money on MK Ultra.
Mm-hmm.
This
Yeah, absolutely.
this says that their initial budget for Artichoke was only 65 grand.
I mean, which is a lot at that time period, but still not very much as far as government testing,
Yeah.
especially when drugs are involved.
Okay.
Go for it.
I found a paper that says that they're in this collection that there's going to be 357 folders and all of them are in individuals of interest to Bluebird and Artichoke. So it was probably still a lot of people that they were experimenting on during this time.
I'm sure thousands, honestly.
Because those are just the ones that are not private citizens, you know what I mean? Like that's not including the people who were in jail or
Those people who were institutionalized, like we were talking about.
in the military. And okay, so this is like talking about just some of the stuff that they have that they found relating to Project Artichoke, and it says that they found an assortment of 35 millimeter film containing snapshots and microfilm of documents. These documents are reports on chemical LSD and psychological warfare. The snapshots appear to be typical tourist-type photos and are of no apparent significance. Inventories of drug supplies on hand in the Artichoke office at various times. A number of drugs and one injection device were also found in the boxes. On the 22nd of August 1977, a representative of the agency's Office of Medical Services examined the material, and he said that there were a few things in this box. There was an automatic self-injecting device similar to those used by military services for self-injection of atropine to counteract nerve gas. It says they found Rodixin. It says that it is an ethical medical preparation that's still used today to treat hypertension in psychotic states.
I bet it's like
Like
it,
a Xanax, probably something like
it's
that. But in
it's
like,
the CBD to the THC. It's
yeah,
the
it's
it's essentially the come down. It's what you need if it gets too bad. If your dose is too high or whatever, or you start to probably go off the deep end, that's there to kind of bring you back down to center, I bet.
yeah, yeah. And it says thorazine hydrochloride, and it's a commonly used tranquilizer. Methadone. It's a well-known stimulant drug.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Marazine. There's only two pills each of Marazine, and it's an anti-nausea medication. Deprazil, which is sorry, I'm trying to read. It's
Very good.
Deprazil, which is used kind of for a mild analog. I can't read. Analgesic. Analgesic.
Analgesic.
Analgesic. What is that?
It's a
Oh, it's just a painkiller.
yeah,
Why? Just say painkiller.
medicinal terms, man.
So
Medicinal
they
terms.
found Deprazil, which is just a mild analgesic. It's a painkiller. And it kind of had traces of some other drugs. It like barbiturates. It had traces of dexamphetamine, phenacetin, acetyl salicylic acid. Acetyl salicylic acid. Say that 5 times fast. That is a word.
Acetyl salicylic acid.
It's fun though. And they also found a display card from the Columbia University Parkinson Research Laboratory showing drugs listed. Mostly they all used it for Parkinson's. So there was some Benadryl in there, drugs used for Parkinson's, there was all kinds of stuff that they found
This
that
is
they were using.
this is a wide range of substance intention. Like you
Yeah,
have everything from muscle relaxers to stimulants to hallucinogenics to psychedelics.
yeah.
Is it possible that these projects weren't so much focused on militarizing soldiers or militarizing people as much as it was militarizing the drug?
Right, where they just like kind of
It,
testing out these things on people. I mean, at the time, it said that at the time those medicines were still or being used, and they're still being used now. So I don't
they
know
were
if that kind of
they were figuring out how to find the right dose for the right intention so that they could essentially get people to do whatever the hell they wanted.
right,
Like you're on the field in the middle of a war and say you're one of the last people on your squad, and I mean they load them up with painkillers and a stimulant and send them on their way. If you have somebody being interrogated and they don't want to give you the information, you can give them a barbiturate and they'll lose their reinforcements and they'll let everything out.
yeah,
They were trying to find ways, I think, to help with their interrogation process and the CIA and acquiring intelligence.
yeah,
Interesting. The more I'm reading about this, the less it's going from what they're saying the intention was.
right. Right. It mostly was just them trying to figure out the use of drugs and interrogation, it seems like, and rather not what they were saying it was like, I mean, even then they were still trying to get into people's minds, but not in the way that they were saying they were doing it.
Mm-mm. No, not at all. Fascinating.
I think they also, I mean, they knew that had these documents gotten to anybody, they would have gotten the media coverage, they would have gotten that press coverage, and that would have made them look so bad.
Oh,
So
most
that's
definitely.
why that nobody knew that this was happening.
And I think it's funny that nobody even really talked about it or brought it to light until the 2000s. That's
Yeah.
so funny.
And then even when it happened, it seemed like you saw it less in the news and more in like uh
Media,
yeah, in movies
just
and
general media, like entertainment media.
yeah.
And maybe part of that is because there isn't really anything new coming out about it, or at least verified, because as we know, the news is all about providing the facts. And if there's no facts necessarily that can go behind it, besides CIA documentation that's already been released, we can have our abstract and our artistic overview, and we could pull out what we want from it, and we could, hey, maybe this happened, maybe this happened, and the men who stare at goats came out and stuff like that. So I think we're going to be seeing more of it being produced and created as time goes on,
Yeah.
especially as more information gets released.
Yeah, there's also a timeliness factor. You know, whenever people are going to make stories and maybe they just released all of this. This was 2004, so I'm assuming that was a pretty busy, news time, I would assume.
After 9/11, and this was
Yeah,
around the Patriot
yeah,
Act taking full swing.
yeah. So
There
I
was
don't think maybe they released a bunch of these, documents and it didn't get picked up in time and nobody thought to write about it as often because there was too much going on.
a
Kind of
little
like
over.
right now. And in the next episode, I mean, we're talking about the aliens and stuff, but how they released those videos and nobody really is talking about it anymore. Or they found a third monolith and I just now heard about it.
Yeah, the
There's
monoliths are a
that happened.
completely separate topic. That's
Yeah.
something that is just that's off the wall. I think our general consensus from Project Stargate is there's so much information that they've thrown in to muddle it all up, and there's so many different code names and acronyms and pseudonyms and people who were involved and people who fell through that I think it's a cover up attempt. I think that all this information that they did have on it and the actual research they put in and the information they've derived is being covered up by all the little things. It's the logistics, it's the synoptics, it's the overviews.
It's the
They're
redacted
using facts to
pages.
cover up facts.
Yeah.
Exactly. Using facts to cover up facts. They're covering the uncovered.
All the
Got
credits.
them. Yeah, right. Q roll. Um, but yeah, this is a Project Stargate is something to keep an eye out for. I would like to watch and see where this goes. This is something that we cannot talk all about in just one session. It's going to have to be a continuous effort.
Yeah.
So
So I said earlier that next time we're going to be talking about aliens.
yes, it's going to be aliens, and it's going to be all the extraterrestrial research and information that we found this year or past couple years, and talk about these crazy monoliths that we're seeing everywhere.
Yeah, because there was a lot of headlines from the extraterrestrial life this year. So we're definitely going to be talking about that.
So we going from Orwell now to more Kubrick with
Yeah.
2001 Space Odyssey.
Yeah.
All right. So until next time, guys, I appreciate you watching. Thanks for listening to us ramble. Until then, y'all have an awesome rest of your day. Be safe. Keep your mind sane.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.